Hey, shalom, shalom, mishpocha. Welcome to another edition of Ray Bash's Ramblings. I'm your host, Rabbi Yehuda Ben Shomer, and today I'm just going to be talking off the cuff about an issue I've been thinking about today called modesty. I don't have any scriptures or anything before me. I'm just kind of speaking from my heart and off the cuff and from prior scriptural knowledge. But modesty is something that seems kind of lost and tossed to the wayside these days and in this society. But I think it's still very important. I think there's some Christian groups out there who are well-intended, well-meaning, but slightly misguided. Mostly, the Pentecostals and the ultra-conservative Baptists and such, where the women are wearing, long dresses and have their hair up in buns and everything. Like I said, I believe that they're well-meaning and well-intended, but a little misguided. There's scripture passages that deals with, that you shouldn't wear that which pertains to a man. I forget the exact quotation right offhand, but most of you know which scripture I'm talking about. But that specific scripture in the original language is specifically talking about military armaments and clothing. So if anything, that verse could be used as a defense at best, saying that women shouldn't be in military service. Now, I'm not going to get into that. There's a whole other can of worms, and I'm not saying I promote that or condone that or whatever. I'm just saying that verse could be used for that, but it can't be used in any way to say that women shouldn't wear pants, because back in the scriptural times, everyone wore robes. The only way that they were designated as different was the style and the design was particularly masculine or feminine, and that's how you were able to tell women's clothing from men's, and they use different materials for men and women likewise. But regarding pants, they had no such thing as pants in biblical times, but they did modify their garments in such a way that one could see them as pants. For instance, like if a man or a woman had to run any long distance, whether it be a warfare or what have you, they would take their skirt, hike it up between their crotch, and tuck it into their belt, and it would look like baggy Arabian pants. And so everybody wore the same garment. Now, to argue the fact that women shouldn't wear pants or what have you, I think is ridiculous, and you can't substantiate that through Scripture, because the pants, they're made specifically for men and specifically for women. I can't wear women's jeans. They're too big in the hips and too thin at the top and too short at the bottom, and they're designed a particular way. Same as a woman's dress shirt. They button a different way. That's how you could tell a man's garment from a woman's garment regarding button-up shirts and the like. Regarding the modesty of hair, some people think that it's I don't know, that it's kind of overrated. But let me tell you of a personal experience that convinced me that hair is a very sensual attire or piece of a woman's being that they should guard against. When I was working in a factory, there were some women working there, and everybody was wearing grubby clothes and were all sweaty, and a lot of the women would keep their hair up and put it up in a bandana or whatever. And I remember I was working at my post, and I saw this woman walk by, and she took her bandana off and let her hair kind of, fall down. And I guess she was going to the restroom or something. And the hair was not even styled. It was all matty and sweaty and stuff. But just for an instant, there was a rise in my spirit of being attracted to this woman visually through her hair. And I thought to myself, my goodness, it is true. Hair is a very sensual thing, and it should be guarded. I'm not saying that, back in the scriptural times, women covered their head to signify that they were married. It was almost just like a wedding band. And so I understand why a lot of Pentecostal women and other women wear their hair up and keep their hair long, because to differentiate them from men from women from the backside when people look at them. So I think a woman should really guard her hairstyle and how she uses her hair. You've all seen those commercials, or seen movies or whatever where there's a real nerdy woman who lets down her hair and shakes it, and it's really sensual, and they try to do it in a very sexy way. Well, that's kind of true. You just you got to be very careful. And I'm not saying that women should go so far as to wear a wig. Like like they do in Orthodox Judaism, because I think that defeats the point of covering their hair. But at the very, very least, in synagogue, a woman should be respectful and wear a head covering, just as a man wears a kippah. And regarding the length, I think that should be left up to the woman's conviction, because hair length is a relative topic. It's a relative term. When you say long, what do you mean by long? It's relative. There's no specific measurement in the scripture that says a woman should have this long of hair. There are some women who, for safety reasons, because of their job, either put their hair up or they cut it very short. In food service, even in nursing, and things of this nature. So I really don't have a problem with a woman cutting her hair short, because there are specific hairstyles for women that only women wear that have short hair. So I don't think it's a man. It's pertaining to a man. And likewise, when you talk about hair length regarding men, it's a relative term. Now, if a man styles his hair like a woman, like these 80s glam bands did, I kind of take issue with that. But just for a man to have long hair, I don't have a big deal about it. I think the scriptures are more pertaining to how the hair is used and what do you mean by having long hair. Can you be differentiated from the back whether you're a man or a woman? Not that because back in the scriptures, when it's talking about how long hair is shameful for a man, the specific audience that was being addressed in those passages come from pagan backgrounds where men would dress up like women and would impersonate women and would participate in homosexuality. So it was more of a prohibition, these verses, regarding being a transvestite, being a cross-dresser, more so than it is technically for a man to have long hair. So many people may think that I'm dancing around the issue or you're battling semantics or whatever, but like I said, I try to be very middle of the road. I try to really see what the scripture's saying, what it said back then, and how that applies to the modern day. So I don't really feel that I'm trying to dance around the issue or what have you. So these are some things pertaining to modesty. I have a few minutes left, so let me just go ahead and tackle one other issue, and that is dealing with the opposite sex. In Orthodox Judaism, it is a long-standing tradition that unless you are closely related to a person of the opposite sex, such as your spouse, your mother, mother-in-law, or your sister, that you're not to be in the same company alone with somebody of the opposite sex. This is to help somebody resist temptation and also to avoid the appearance of evil, so people can't spread gossip wrongly about you. And if this was followed in nominal Christianity, there would be a lot less scandal, because I know of a personal story of a pastor who was alone with quite a few women, and they have come out and made accusations against him, and as a result, he's spending time behind bars right now. And I realize that there's a lot of teenage girls who really look up to authority figures, male authority figures, because they lack such in their home life, and they usually want to come up and give you a hug. Well, if I'm ever in a situation like that and I'm the recipient of a hug from somebody that's female, that's of the opposite sex, I don't push them away and reject them, but I make sure I position myself to where it's a sideways hug and not a frontal hug, so everybody can see and everybody knows what's fully intended, so that nothing can be said because it's a sideways hug. And so you'll understand now why there's a lot of Orthodox Jewish men who will not shake hands with women, especially Gentile women, because to them it's a code of modesty, and it's also seen as a term of respect for the husband of the person of the opposite sex. So these are some things pertaining to modesty. I may do a part 2 later on, I don't know yet, but these were just some initial thoughts I've been thinking about today. So thanks for watching. Shalom and Shavua Tov. Bye-bye.